Hey guys, what's up? So I am asked this question quite often by a lot of different people, and it keeps coming up over and over and over again. It's a question that I've asked myself in the course of my lifetime. And the question is, what is the reason for us being here? Like, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? Why are we alive? When I was younger and I was going through my teenage years, I had a lot of questions about life, and I began to look for answers. I, over time, came to understand some things about why we're here, and I want to share those with you. From my perspective, and this is my opinion, this isn't like, oh my gosh, this is the only answer there is to this question, because I think you can have a million different answers to this question, but the reason why we are here, in my opinion, is simply to live our lives. You to live your life and myself to live mine. It gets a little more complicated because, I mean, it's a simple answer, right? Just to live your life. That's it? Like, is that really the reason? Well, think of it this way. If you look at yourself in the mirror, that person that you're looking at, that is not who you really are. That is a mask, that is a costume, that is a part that you are playing in this lifetime, but it's not who you really are. You are more than that, and you have essentially taken yourself and you've stuck yourself into this role so that you can experience through your eyes, through your emotions, through your perspective. That information is so valuable to the bigger you, the you that you truly are, which we will call the soul in this case. So the soul, the bigger you, it wants to have information, it wants to have experiences, it wants to understand, to be aware. And in order to do that, it has to condense itself into different parts so that it can play those parts and gain the information and experiences that will come with those different awarenesses, yes. So that is the purpose of the soul, is simply to be aware, and it will do so by creating these different roles, parts, characters, and then putting them in specific situations, going through life, having those experiences through that process, and then collecting that information. So I myself, Ferny, I'm only one person, one character. I'm the person in this lifetime known as Fernando or Ferny. But my soul is much grander, much bigger than what you're seeing in front of you. And so you each have a soul, and that soul is the bigger part of yourself. It's the grander version of yourself. And it's collecting all this information. So the purpose of you being here, the reason for you to be alive, is simply to exist and to experience life through your eyes, through your perspective, to have your unique experiences. Here, it's not like we don't have a plan or we don't have an idea for what we're wanting to experience while we're here. We are actually very selective about the plays that we take on, the parts that we decide to play in life. And we decide these things before we come into life. Back up a little bit, because I know you're like, what? Like, before we come into life? What are you talking about? This is where it gets even more complicated, because this involves the whole concept of reincarnation. This involves the whole concept of, the other side. And, once you're dead, you're not just dead, you actually exist somewhere else. So this involves a lot of different concepts. Before we come into life, we exist as souls. We exist as these balls of awareness. It's called that, balls of awareness. Before we come into life, we have to have a plan, an idea for what we're wanting to achieve or to receive here. We are wanting to experience certain things. We're wanting to gain certain bits of information and knowledge because it helps us to understand ourselves as a grander whole, which, if you think of the grander whole, not just the soul, but all the souls, take all the souls, put them together, and then there's a grander awareness there. I think of that as God. That's my idea of what God is. And a lot of people have theories about what God is. Is God an old man sitting on a chair in heaven? Is God, a deity? In my opinion, God is simply awareness, consciousness. And so I think there's a grander consciousness that is aware of everything, of all things, and then it's condensed, or it splits itself into pieces, and then we have the souls. And the souls are, we each are part of a soul, and then the soul condenses itself and splits itself into parts and pieces, and then we have the personalities or the spirits, which I'm Fernando, I'm Ferny, I'm the spirit Ferny. So that's how I think of the overall grand design of things. And before we come into life, which we exist in a different plane, in a different space, in a different realm, and I know for some of you this is like, where is it? Like, he's going way out there. I am going out there, because that is how I've come to understand why we're here. And you got to go out there, because the answers you can look all around you and the answer is very clear, but to understand the grander picture, the bigger picture, you have to step outside the box. And life is a box that we're all stuck in until it's no longer a box for us, and then we can be aware of things. So I believe that before we come into life, our soul has a plan that it creates a plan for itself. It decides what it's going to be experiencing in life. And so in order to do that, we have to kind of sift through what it is we're trying to do when we're here, what it is we're trying to experience, what the reasons are behind that. And we have others in that space, other souls that we work with, that work with us, that help us and guide us through the process. I like to call those souls master teachers. I can call them spirit guides. You can call them a travel agent, because they're ultimately all that the spirit guide is helping us to do, the travel agent is helping us to do, is to plan our trip. That's all they're helping us to do. And if we have any issues, or if there are any things that come up during a little trip or travel to the planet Earth, they're going to give us a hand if they can, if it's needed. And so we get together with the spirit on the other side, or the soul, I'm sorry. We get together with the soul on the other side, this other consciousness, this guide, this spirit guide, and we plan our trip as far as what we're going to do when we get down here. So we design the personality that we're going to be utilizing for the purposes of this experience. We begin to put in certain factors as far as what race will we be, where geographically where will we be. We decide who our parents are going to be. All these different kinds of, it's like a formula. We have a formula for what we're going to receive through the process of living. And there's certain components that have to be there in order to help us receive those experiences. So then as soon as we have our plan, we can take on electives. There's extra things that we can do that while we're here, but we have main goals, main objectives as far as what we're going to be realizing, what we're going to be experiencing when we're in the living state. So as soon as that plan is complete, then of course we have to make sure it's approved, because sometimes souls get a little ambitious and people like to do a lot of funny things when they don't know what the hell they're dealing with. And the way that I equate this, Fernando, why would I choose the parents that I had? Why would I choose to be born to, poor family? Why would I choose to be abused? It's like this. Think of yourself at a party. You're having a great time. You're having a drink. You're tipsy. You're loving it. You're having an amazing time. People there are so much fun. And then someone says, hey, we should all get together and we should, go skydiving in 2 weeks. We should all get together and go skydiving in 2 weeks. Who's with me? And of course, because you're having such a great time, you're in a different state. You're probably drunk as hell. You're gonna say yes. You're like, yes, I totally want to do that. I totally want to go skydiving. Let's all get together. Let's do it. So you're pumped, you're revved up, you want to do it. And then 2 weeks comes, you're not at a party anymore, and then it's time to go and show up to the skydiving class so you can go skydiving. You're probably going to be shitting your pants, because that is when you realize, no, why would I choose to do this? I don't want to do this skydiving. What the hell was I thinking? That's what you're feeling right now when you hear me talking about us planning our lives and how we chose to come here and chose some of the elements involved in our circumstances. You're having that reaction right now because when you were there and you were planning it, you were in a different place, in a different state, and you were very ambitious. So once our plans are formulated, we get it approved by guides or other master teachers there who are aware and never lose that perspective, never lose that awareness that when we get here, it's just different. And so they help us to refine our plan so that we don't take on too much, because sometimes taking on too much can cause us to implode, honestly. I mean, we take on too much, and ultimately we are the say-so. We're the ultimate say-so as far as what we're going to experience here. And sometimes when we come down here and we load our plate with too much, we can't finish what we've started, then we implode. We start having issues here. There are challenges here that we weren't anticipating or expecting, and they come out of, some people self-destruct, they commit suicide because it's just too much, they can't handle it. We get our plan approved, we go ahead and begin the process of finding all the components necessary so that we can put our plan in motion. So even though we pick the kinds of people that are going to be like our parents, we don't necessarily know exactly who's going to be our parents. So we start looking for the candidates who are going to qualify and fit that checklist. We also go and look for the other components as well. So once we find a life that is going to give us the overall experience of the different parts that we put together, then we begin the process of being born. Our memories are wiped, and then we are born. And we are born as a child who's just beginning to understand the world from their eyes without any prior knowledge as to why. So then we go through life, we experience things, and we evolve, and we turn into the personality, to the individual that we decided to be in life. That is the picture. So, and not everything is planned, and I don't want to make it seem like, well, what's the point of free will? You know, because if we have free will, then we would choose our lives. We actually do choose our lives. It's like taking a trip from New York to LA. You know, you can, if you take a trip from New York to LA, you can fly, you can take a train, you can drive. There are so many different ways. You can walk. There's so many different ways to get from one place to the other, and not just that, but along the way, along the trip, so many things can happen. So many things can be experienced. So when you are traveling from New York to LA, you can go down a wrong street. You can run into a bunch of people in a town that you never expected to run into and have an experience that you weren't fully anticipating, or that you can add on. You can, meet someone on your travels and spend some time with them while you're on your trip. So a lot of different things can happen on the journey. The components have been set up, but it's still all it's a free-for-all. You can really have a lot of different experiences within that setup. And so even though we have a life plan, we still have a lot of different things we can experience while we're here. And that's where free will comes in, because you can decide to move forward with something and you can decide to move against something. And throughout our life, we will always have that little voice in our mind that's always giving us some hints or helping us understand some things. That little voice of reason that's like, Ferny, you might want to be careful because she cannot be trusted, or you knew that was going to happen. Why did you let that happen? So that little voice in your mind that's just chirping away from time to time, that's our guide. That is our travel agent. They're just trying to help us keep to our plan, keep to what we had established for ourselves. And then once we're done with this lifetime, even with the exit points, certain ways we've chosen to go, once we're done and we've had our exit point, then we go back into the other side, or the place that we started out to begin with, that other space, and we look back on our lives and look at everything that we went through, everything. And you don't just look at what you did, you get to experience your life from the people's perspectives who you affected. And that's part of the sharing, that's part of the co-creation process with others. If you affect another human being, you also get the benefit of that information as well. So that's why people say, oh my gosh, I saw how I was a total bitch in life and how I could have done things a lot differently. Because you get to experience things from their perspectives in that moment that the interaction happened. You get to feel those things. So you get to review and go over those details. And then with that, you will use that information, use that awareness and that understanding, and create another life for yourself, another personality, another whatever. And that's the process of reincarnation, and that is a process of living. So when people ask me, like, what's the meaning of life? It's that simple. The meaning of life is simply to experience life through your eyes, through your perspective, from beginning to end. That is why you're here. And you may remember some things about your past lives. You may have a memory triggered about being in that other space. And as you're hearing me talk about this process, you're going to have these feelings of like, that sounds familiar, or this sounds right. I don't know how, but it sounds right. Or, and there are bits and pieces that are going to resonate with you, and that is okay. That happens. That's when I first heard about this process, I had the same experience. I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. This totally helps me understand the whole point of all this happening the way that it has. That is what has helped me in my life make sense of the craziness that is life. If you enjoyed this video and you would like more like this, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, because you will find out as soon as I release a video that I've released a video. So make sure you click the subscribe button. And as always, I love you guys, and I will talk to you next time.